If you have a gimbal, you've probably been told that you have to learn the ninja walk to get amazing gimbal shots. Totally disagree on that. But even if you can do it, you're probably making your life much more harder than it actually should be. Because you're doing the same mistakes as 90% of all others you see here on YouTube. And I constantly see so many beginners make at least one of these 4 gimbal mistakes that will keep you from getting amazing gimbal shots. But the good thing is that it's super easy to correct, you just have to know how to fix it. When working with gimbal, you have to see your body as a set of springs. The first set of springs are the ones that are in your feet and your legs, and the second set of springs are the ones that are in your arms. And when working with a gimbal, it's these 2 springs that has to work together to absorb the impact that you create when you're walking. So if we only move the springs that are in our legs, the gimbal here will move with us. But if we move the springs in our arms, the gimbal will stay in place. And this is why it's so hard to get smooth shots when we're walking, because if you aren't moving those springs correctly, the footage will be swaying or jittery. So all you have to do to walk correctly is use the heel to toe method and use the springs in your legs to absorb the impact and correct with the springs in your arms when you're walking forward. And this is the reason why the ninja walk doesn't work as well. Because when you do the ninja walk, you're super bent over and the springs in your body don't have any room to move and absorb those impacts that you create when we walk. And the other thing is that you will also be much more likely to get injuries in your lower and your upper back as well as your knees. So instead, use your body as a spring so that you can absorb those impacts that we create. It's actually super simple. Just think of yourself as having a string that you're hooked up to so that your body will be more upright, and then you just walk forward and you use that spring to absorb the impacts when we walk. So the next mistake that most people do is that they're not holding the gimbal correctly, meaning that you're not using a side grip or a dual grip for your gimbal. So normally when you have a gimbal, you're probably holding like a stick like this, but the problem is that it will be too sway. You can see here, so it's super easy for it to sway because your body is tucked in. But if you use the side hand, you get more open and you have more room kind of to maneuver around once you walk forward. This also has another benefit when you hold it with the left hand here, is that when you hold it firmly with the left hand, the impacts that come from our feet won't transition into the gimbal and create those micro jitters. And another thing is that when we're working with the Gimbal S, where we have the controls right here on the handle, when I hold it firmly here, it's not a problem to hold it here because I hold it gently and I will not be touching the controls. So a little side bonus there. So the third mistake is that you're holding the gimbal too upright. You don't want to do that because you're not engaging the tilt motor. You want to slightly angle the gimbal. This way we will engage the tilt motor when we walk forward. And of course use the heel to toe when we walk. So slightly move the gimbal forward like that. Then the motor will work for you when we're shooting. So don't use it upright, slightly tilt forward. Has another benefit as well. When we are in here, we tend to move the gimbal out here instead. When we slightly move it forward, we have it closer to our body. I don't know why, but I just see this happen, and having it closer to your body means that you won't put that much stress on your back. So the last mistake I see a lot of beginners do, and my students as well do this, is that they want a super smooth shot and they try to do it in slow motion. So what they actually want, a super slow, steady shot, and they try to do that shot. But you have to keep the gimbal in motion in order to get a smooth shot. By doing this, you can shoot in 50 or 60 FPS, also 120, and then slow it down in post. So when I want a smooth shot, take a couple steps back and then I walk into the shot like this, keeping the gimbal as steady as possible. And then I slow it down in post once I get back to the editing. So you can see if I try to move slowly, there's some problems here. My body starts to wiggle, and I also starts to shake the gimbal. So it's actually much harder to try to move slowly than move the gimbal in real time. The same goes when I'm shooting real estate. Let's say we should shoot this and wanted to film out there, shoot it and supercharge your camera or your gimbal to get super smooth shots.